I literally just put a call out on Instagram, which was really something I didn't really do at the time. I didn't do many talky stories or anything. And I literally just thought, I'm just going to try this. I'm just going to do it.
I'd just recently bought Claire's pattern, the Retro Metro quilt pattern, which had caught my eye because I decided that I wanted to start out with a quilt, which now looking back on was probably quite a challenging thing to start with. I'd followed a load of people on Instagram and then happened to come across Claire's story looking for someone to be her student, essentially, to teach them how to make a quilt, which was ironic because I'd obviously just bought this quilt pattern. So I messaged her and we had a bit of back and forth.
I never thought, I think I even messaged you, Jenny, and said, I don't think I'm going to find someone. Is there anyone who's looking for somebody? And then obviously Zoe, like after 24 hours, like sent me that message, and it was amazing. But it was like we clicked straight away. It was just such a like lovely natural friendship. We just started emailing, and then we'd like, you know, lots of conversations back and forth. Then we started to Zoom, so we got to know each other, and
then we decided to sort of partner up, and I was over the moon. I couldn't really believe that was happening, and that was kind of it. It was just a very sort of quick thing, and I was delighted when she asked me to work with her on the big Janome Skillshare. What do I know about quilts? To be honest, I probably just thought it was more of, you know, choosing your sort of last ends of fabric and putting them together, which obviously some people do. And so I didn't realize it was maybe so much pattern based. But I like things to be quite sort of, you know, neat and tidy and perfect, which I'm sure Claire will back me up on, because I was upset when my points weren't meeting precisely. And so I think in my head, I didn't quite realize that quilts were necessarily following a particular pattern. And so that's what I quite liked about Claire's pattern, was that it looked very sort of perfectly done. I mean, I didn't know anything. I mean, I rarely had used my sewing machine, to be honest. So I'd never changed the needle. I didn't know how to even change the foot on the sewing machine. I think I needed the push from Claire to get me going, and she just helped me with any sort of silly question I had. I don't think she necessarily felt that they were silly questions, but I felt like they were. But she made little videos for me for, you know, anything that I was stuck on. She really showed me step by step how to do it. And that really helped me progress and make my finished quilt. And we really were, you know, till the last minute, sort of on that last day, was it the 30th of April? I was sort of like, oh my God, am I going to get it done? So yeah, it was just, I mean, I wouldn't have started it and I wouldn't have done it without her, put it that way.
Just listening to Zoe go through it brings back a lot of memories, actually, because it was a real moment in our lives, like what we were going through as well, because we were doing this in a pandemic, looking after our kids. And yeah, I mean, I'm so pleased she has so many questions. So I was worried that I was just taking so much for granted as well, like just telling her to do this, and this, and then she'll come back and go, but what do you mean? And it was nice that it was all broken down and I could go through it. And you take so much for granted. You don't realise how much you absorb while you're learning a craft as well. So yeah, it was a fantastic process, the whole thing. And I do remember towards the end being on a dog walk and my husband asking about it. And I remember just going, I don't think we're going to get it done on time. But the last thing I want to do is put any pressure on Zoe, because I don't want her to hate quilting. I was like, we'll get it done, but I don't think we just might not enter it. So yeah, I just remember sending you, I was homeschooling my eldest in the kitchen, and I just wrote down a timetable, like got all our dates down. I was like, right, you need to get this done by this day by this day, and sent it over, and it worked, didn't it? Like you could visually see how much you needed to get done, and somehow it just all came together.
And it didn't come with there were still mistakes along the way. At one point I stitched all of my you'll have to help me. What did I stitch wrong? I stitched them all the wrong way round.
Oh yeah, the Roman stripes, didn't you? You put the backs the wrong way around. I can't even remember what you did, but I've never seen that mistake before.
And it was all of them, and I was like, look, I've done it all. And you were like, yeah, but they're all the way around.
But it was really good for me to say to you, we all make mistakes. Don't ever think that anyone is perfect. Like quilters make huge mistakes. They rip out. I've known people to rip out the whole of their quilting, like once the patchwork's done, and take it out because they've not liked it or it hasn't worked. And yeah, we've all been there, and it's very frustrating because you put your heart and soul into quilts, and I think when you have to tear it apart, it is like tearing a little bit of you away, and it's frustrating. But you did the best thing. You did it. You went and slept on it, and then the next day you did it again, and you were fine.
I remember my husband had taken the girls out for the day, so I could just focus on that bit of the quilt. And then when I realised I'd done it all wrong, I was like, I've wasted all these hours of him, of childcare, basically. Well, he can look after the children, and then the next day, and then that evening, he was sitting on the sofa helping me unpick all of those square triangles or whatever it was.
It's like creative souls that come together. It's something special. You have something that you share that other friendships that you have don't, because they don't quite see the creative side of it. It's really nice. And I think you share something when you're making something together. You do share parts of you with it. It's not just a black and white thing. It's like so much goes into it, and there was such a story behind Zoe's reasons for making this as well. It made it really special.
Well, I think it's like, so many skill sets that even cross stitch, for instance, is seen as like, such an old fuddy-duddy type thing, and only grandmas sit on their sofa and do it.
It's still hard. I still find it hard to sell myself as a quilter to people face to face, because I think, especially with social media, you immerse yourself in a world where everyone's the same as you, but then in the real world, in the real like people standing in front of you world, it's very hard because they do look at you and think, oh, quilting.
I think all of these sort of crafts have almost done a full circle and have become a trendy thing to do, and especially through lockdown, so many people took up new crafts. So I think for me, mine obviously came from a grief element, and I realize now that, like with so many skills that you learn, it's just another way of dealing with a grief or emotion. So yeah, it's amazing to be creative, and where we should find our creative sides. I'd say I'm still a beginner. I don't have much faith in myself, but I have produced a quilt. So yeah, I would say, does that make me a quilter?
Yes, it does, definitely. And you produced a quilt that wasn't a beginner quilt. Like the things you were doing, which is what I was trying to tell you during the whole process, you were doing stuff that shouldn't have been your first quilt. It should have been a few quilts on. And you did it, and you'd made such a beautiful, beautiful quilt as well. It was just stunning.
Yeah.
So proud.
I do love it. I mean, I don't often, if you make something yourself, I think you often just critique it and find all the, the little bits you've done wrong. But actually, I do just love my quilt. So I'll be proud to say I like it. I've got a friend who is inspired to make a quilt after seeing my one, and she just keeps saying, I just don't understand where you find the time to do it. And I think it's with all these things, you just put it off, and then when you start dedicating some time to it, even if it's half an hour here or eventually. And definitely when we started doing the quilt together, I remember Claire saying, in a few weeks you'll just suddenly see these bits you're cutting and producing, in like 2 weeks time you'll actually have something that's sewn together. And it was like that. It was like all this cutting and then suddenly I had this beautiful product. So you just end up finding the time for things you love.
I mean, I often do a lot. I get the kids into bed and I come down and sit down and sew, because that to me is my relaxation. Like I find it so, like you say, like I can process things in my head, or I lose myself sewing something up. I really look forward to doing it. So it's never a chore.
It's the fact that I actually have produced something that I've made entirely by myself, every stitch on the sewing machine, or by every piece of material that I did that. And it's not often you do that. In my previous work, everything was working as a team, and I was in marketing, and you'd put a marketing campaign out, but so many people had put some element of that in, and I just feel like this is something that I've just dedicated time to and made myself on. I think the big Janome Skillshare taught me that imperfections are okay, and it was my first quilt, and there were bound to be mistakes, and I'm sure there always will be. So it's okay to go wrong sometimes. Sometimes.
The big Janome Skillshare definitely made me realise that I can quilt myself and teach someone to quilt. I think it's it was definitely a brain block for me to realise that I was good enough to be able to like share because I'm completely self-taught myself. I feel like I'm not good enough to therefore pass that on to somebody, but I am, and I have, and I've managed to get Zoe to produce the most beautiful quilts. So yes, definitely confidence. I just need to say a big thank you, Zoe, for reaching out, because I think that took such a lot of confidence to be able to say, yeah, okay, I'll take you up, because it was literally me talking to camera like this saying, was anyone out there who'd like me to teach you to quilt? And you just messaged me this wonderful message and said, I'd love to. And you had my pattern and things, which blew me away because it was my first pattern. I was like, oh my God, somebody bought my pattern, wants me to teach them. But yeah, the friendship we formed, it was so important for me during that time as well, because you got me through such a horrifically hard time being at home with my children, homeschooling, not being at home with my children, just homeschooling. And getting through that time, it was so good to have that focus and to have you and to be able to chat to you. And yeah, so thank you. And I'm just so appreciative of our friendship, and yeah, having another creative soul in my world is wonderful.
Yeah, and the same, well, thank you for choosing me. I think sometimes when you send someone or tell someone a bit of what might be classed as a sob story, you know, some people might think, oh, here's just another sob story. But it came from the heart, and it was, you know, it was a really tough year for me last year, and it taught me a lot, and it's good to sort of open up sometimes, and, you know, and come out of your comfort zone and meet new friends, and you are a dear friend. So yeah, I just can't wait to meet up and also bug you with more questions when I start your next pattern.